Many thanks for choosing us. The Customs Division of Ghana Revenue Authority is expected to destroy over 1,000 pieces of imported used mattresses this week. This follows successful burning of about 150 pieces of the seized mattresses on Tuesday at Bong here in the Greater Accra region. Seizure and further destruction of the mattresses is in line with Legislative Instrument 1580, which came into effect in 1994, prohibiting importation of such items. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has filed this report.
According to the Customs Division, the Legislative Instrument 1580 prohibits importation of used sanitary wares, mattress and other clothes in commercial quantity. Chief Revenue Officer of State Warehouse at Tema Port, Lawrence Annan, says offenders turned blind eye to the existence of this law. Offenders who are prosecuted are fined 500 Ghana cedis or not more than a year imprisonment.
Here the bottom line is the underlying word is in commercial quantity. The laws specifically state that they are prohibited. They are not even restricted. When it comes to items under restriction, that one you can secure a permit from the regulatory bodies and come and claim them. But when they say they are prohibited, outright prohibition, there is no option than to destroy them. That is why we are undertaking this exercise today. We have a lot we are destroying, and we're starting today. If we are able to hold on to the vehicle for the next 2-3 days, that's what we are going to be doing, as you witnessed at the Pong landfill site. So, as I have just said, I'm not going to waste much of your time. When we import any of these items that I have mentioned, used mattresses in commercial quantity, sanitary wear, used handkerchiefs, when you bring them in commercial quantities, they are going to be seized.
Lawrence Annan expressed worry about lack of interest by stakeholders such as importers and manufacturers in GRA educational reforms. He alleged some importers divert goods which are cleared for transit.
In every room we have Mensa, and what happens is that after we've gone through the procedure, you have to secure or procure a bond to cover this transaction. But the intention of the importer will not be known until he or she is arrested. Because most of the time, you declare your intentions before you even ship the goods, that these goods are for transit, they are for transshipment, they are for coastwise, they are for re-export. And then when all these things have been approved by the sector commander and the unit in charge, we have a tracking device that is supposed to track this thing. I wouldn't want to go much into those, deeper into those things. But before you realize, this thing has been diverted. It's a human institution, like I said earlier on. But with the present administration, the measures they are taking, if you want to fall foul with the law, that is your own headache.
Meanwhile, the Customs Division says it will deal ruthlessly with officers who connive with offenders. Kwame Yanka's report for Joy News.
An Accra High Court has given Attorney General and Minister of Justice Gloria Kufu 7 days to give former Cocoa Board CEO Dr. Stephen Opuni evidence against him in the case of causing financial loss to the state. Businessman Seido Agongo is also to receive same as well as that against his company Agricult Ghana Limited. For more than a month, the court ceased hearing the matter following an application made by lawyers for Dr. Opuni demanding access to all documents in the possession of the state prosecutors, including those that may not be tendered in as evidence. The Supreme Court on June 7 ruled that accused persons are entitled to have access to all documents. Trial Judge Justice Clement Honyanuga Wednesday gave life to that ruling when he said the AG must file all the documents within 7 days. Justice Honyanuga sounded a note of caution to lawyers in the case, stating he will not countenance any needless delays. The judge fixed July 4 as the date for trial to commence. Away from the court, hospital authorities of the Ganwest Municipal Hospital at Amasaman says it has commenced investigations into the alleged administration of a spy drug on a 1-year-old baby. Joy News reported on Tuesday that the family of the baby is asking hospital authorities to sign an undertaking to take full responsibility should anything happen to the baby. The family is threatening to heed to the law courts if the hospital fails to respond to their queries by Monday. But medical superintendent of the Ganwest Municipal Hospital has confirmed to Joy News that a committee has been set up to probe the complaint, and it has begun sitting. Hannah Odame was at the hospital and has a following report.
So this is where it all happened for the 1-year-old who was brought here to be treated for a non-stop cough. We know that now he's been discharged. His parents are, however, saying that they want the hospital to sign an undertaking that indeed they administered expired medication to the boy.
The whole thing is they don't want to take the blame. Either the pharmacy, the emergency, those are the emergency units, the administration, I don't know what they want to tell us. I smell something fishy about this because initially they told me they are not sure I got the drugs from their pharmacy. So I brought out the receipt to them. And then it changed. Oh, then we'll investigate. Only for one PA to come around and tell me the nurse saw the expired one in the rubber bag, so she got a different one to inject the child, and then told those who will be coming for night duty to take another one from the drawer. This cock and bull story, I don't know how he got that.
Well, hospital authorities are saying that investigations have begun into this matter. Here is the medical superintendent of the hospital.
We have constituted an investigative committee, and the committee has actually started sitting, and they are going to invite all the witnesses, including the complainant and his wife, to appear before them. So not until the committee has sat and listened to all the witnesses and come up with their findings and recommendations, very little can be said about the case.
Well, parents of the boy have given the hospital up to next week Monday to respond to their concerns, or they will go to court.
If they are telling us they are going to investigate, because since Wednesday they are not doing anything about it, only for the administrator to tell me to come and put it on paper, make it official, fine, I've done that. We are still waiting for them until Monday. If we don't hear from them, we'll know what we can do. And they have to, whether they like it or not, they have to accept it that they have committed a very big mistake, and this is human life we are talking about. We are only grateful to God that he's still alive.
So to come on this bulletin, Strategic Thinkers Network petitions the Supreme Court for the true interpretation of constitutional provisions that allow the use of the voter ID card as appropriate proof of citizenship. We'll speak to the group and the National Identification Authority on that suit. Meanwhile, minority in Parliament are questioning the NIA's position that voters' ID card will not be used as proof of citizenship for the Ghana card.
Status of the voter ID card as reference, we will question that in the Supreme Court of Ghana on the basis of their earlier rulings and position on the matter.
There is more on Joy News Prime. Policy think tank Strategic Thinkers Network Africa has filed a writ at the Supreme Court seeking proper interpretation of Article 6 and 42 that says a person with a voter's card has passed the citizenship requirements. Let's get some details on our screen shortly. We'll give you details, detailed graphic information on the suit that has been filed, and it says a declaration. So the Strategic Thinkers Network is seeking the Supreme Court to interpret and it's seeking a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, particularly Article 6 and 42 of the 1992 Constitution, a person with the Ghana voter's card has passed the citizenship requirement. I mean, that's what Strategic Thinkers Network seeks to be interpreted by the Supreme Court. Number 2, it wants a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of the Constitution, specifically Article 42, the purported removal of National Identity Register with Amendment Act 2017, Act 950, the Ghana voters card from the identity documents required before a person can obtain the Ghana citizenship card is unconstitutional, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever. So it goes on to say a declaration that upon free and proper interpretation of the Constitution, specifically Article 6 of the 1992 Constitution, and it wants a proof of citizenship should not be limited by the provisions of the National Identity Register with Amendment Act 2017, Act 950, and 4, an order directed at the second defendant to include Ghana voters card as one of identity documents for the purposes of acquiring Ghana citizenship card. Let's go on the phone line and speak with private legal practitioner Eduji Tamaklo. Good evening to you. Many thanks for your time on Joy News Prime.
Good evening and good evening to our viewers.
Counsel, so what exactly motivated the suit against the NIA?
Well, very well. The instruction that we had from our client, that the strategist thinker, is that to bear in mind Article 42 of the 1993 Constitution on the right to vote provides a qualification. That is, 1, you must be a citizen. 2, you must be 18 years and above, and thirdly, you must be of sound mind. Now, if a person has a voter's card now, what it does mean is that a person has gone through this requirement and have met it. So therefore, and you remember that in the Abu Ramadan line of cases, the Supreme Court, in fact, affirmed this position of law in declaring the use of the NHIS card as unconstitutional as proof of identity. Now, so what they are basically saying by way of this case is that if you put all of this into place, then anybody that has the voter's card now has already met the citizenship requirements under Article 6 and Article 42. And so therefore, the decision to delete that particular document as proof or as one of the identity documents in proof of citizenship for the purpose of the voters' Ghana card is unconstitutional and of no legal effect.
Well, let me acknowledge Mr. Pamberti, who is Public Relations Officer of the National Identification Authority. Mr. Francis Pamberti.
No, ordinarily I am not.
Yes, it's not going to be a banter. I'm just acknowledging him. I'll speak to him after speaking to you. But so you want the Supreme Court to, if I quote one of your requests, you want the Constitution, the Supreme Court, a declaration that upon a true and proper interpretation of the provisions of Article 42, the perpetual removal of National Identity Register Act 2017, Act 950, the Ghana voters card from the identity documents required before a person can obtain the Ghana citizenship card is unconstitutional, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever. Yes. True.
Yes, so basically, like I indicated, these are the reliefs that we are taking from the court. It is for the court to make a determination at the end of the day.
So, but this was passed by Parliament. How then do you want the Supreme Court?
No, you know, any act passed by Parliament does not in itself mean it can always be challenged. If I remember that it was Parliament that passed a law that made the use of the NHIS card a proof of one of the documents for the purposes of registration. If you recall, the Supreme Court struck that thing out as unconstitutional. So the mere fact that it's Parliament that has done it does not in itself mean that prima facie it has passed the test of constitutionality.
All right. When is the Supreme Court going to sit on this matter? Do you know?
We just file it. I'm sure the registry will take the appropriate step and then we'll move from there.
All right. Many thanks to you. Eduji Tamaklo is a private legal practitioner and he's looking forward to getting some declarations from the Supreme Court. Let's speak with Acting Public Relations Officer, Mr. Francis Pamdeti, who is joining us live from the Aliza Hotel. Good evening to you, sir.
It's faint. I can read.
So, can you confirm if the NIA has received a copy of the suit?
Is she talking to me?
Yes, Mr. Pamdeti, you are on air.
It's extremely faint. I can hardly hear you.
Well, let's try and adjust. Let me try again and ask if you have received or if the NIA has received a copy of the suit.
No, as I speak to you at this material moment, we have not received a copy or we have not been served any rate. What we have seen is also what was published on social media. So I saw the document on social media, but we have not been served.
Well, but you still hold that the law you're working with was passed by Parliament, hence you will carry through with the exercise. But there are more actions, including this particular suit, that may frustrate your work.
I didn't hear the latter part of your question. I just heard 4.
I'm saying that you said you're continuing with the exercise because the law you're working with was passed by Parliament. But we just spoke with the lawyer who has sued you. And I mean, it's one of the suits that is coming in that may frustrate you. He says that even though Parliament passed this act, I mean, anybody can challenge it.
Anyway, I'll try and respond. But what it is that as an authority, we were created by statute. The National Identification Authority was established by Act 707. A law passed by the Parliament of Ghana created the authority. Now that authority is governed by other acts passed in Parliament. So Act 750, which is the National Identity Register Act, is an act that we as an institution are required to implement. Now that law was also amended not too long ago. I think 7th December, the President of the Republic assented to the law. And that law is what we are working with as we are conducting this mass registration exercise. Now the issue of contention, which is the inclusion or exclusion of the voter's ID card, is something that is not within our purview to either accept or incorporate, or there's nothing we can do about it because we will be seen to be breaching the law which has been passed by Parliament. The Parliament of this country are persons who create laws, or they pass laws, or they make laws. As an institution, we are the receiving end of what they do. We have laws we have to implement. And as we speak, that's exactly what we are doing and will continue to do until some other directive is issued from the appropriate authority.
All right. So you still hold that you've not received copy of the suit. Well, many thanks to you, Mr. Pamdeti. We'll be following this issue keenly and bring our viewers the last minute on net. Let's get on to other issues because President Akufo-Addo is courting the support of chief executives in the country towards full implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. The 13 targets expected to be achieved by 2030 is geared towards fighting gender inequalities on all fronts, wipe out extreme poverty, tackle the issue of climate change, and also reverse the degradation of the environment. Now, the breakfast meeting shared ideas on best ways to achieve the goals. President Akufo-Addo, who is co-chair of the SDGs, wants the CEOs to lead the way in identifying with the goals.
One, how we can work together to bring the SDGs into fruition. Secondly, how best we can mobilize your expertise, your knowledge, and best practices so that the SDGs can be achieved. And lastly, how we can ensure that the SDGs don't remain within the public consciousness as some abstract, remote phenomenon that is debated amongst a few political leaders and bureaucrats in the floors of the General Assembly of the United Nations, and that is that. But that they become an active set of goals within the public consciousness, because people can recognize that they do affect all of us. The goal of gender equity, it's one of the goals of the SDGs.
President's Special Advisor on SDGs, Eugene Owusu, says as a show of commitment, government has taken up the challenge of the goals and has captured them in their coordinated program for economic and development policies currently before Parliament.
As a country, it's also a great delight to see that we have gone into action and started well in terms of implementation of the goals. First, we've succeeded in integrating the goals into the consolidated program of the government, which is the overarching development strategy for our country. And here I would like to acknowledge the leadership of the Ministry of Planning in making it happen. Secondly, to mention that we've set up a very robust architecture to support implementation of the goals, with oversight responsibilities vested in a 15-member high-level ministerial committee, which was personally launched by His Excellency the President towards the back end of last year. I should also mention that our current budget, the budget for this year, was prepared largely through the lens of the Sustainable Development Goals, perhaps one of the few countries globally which have succeeded in doing so. And by doing that, resources are aligned behind SDG priorities.
But let's go back to our earlier story where the minority in Parliament is justifying its boycott of the Ghana card registration exercise, and listen to the minority leader Haruna Idris.
It is our strong view that the voter ID card, which produced a government, at least it produced a government of President Kufuor, President Rawlings, Nana Addo Dankwa, is a legitimate reference document, even referencing Supreme Court rulings on that matter. But that has been excluded in the law, but part of the legislative instrument which drive its strength from the Parent Act. We are of the strong belief that this exercise must be all-inclusive. Therefore, our boycott is to ensure that there is no denial, I repeat, there is no denial of legitimate Ghanaian citizens having their due to be part of a national identification system. We find the reference document of only the passport and the birth certificate inadequate and insufficient, and that is basis that many more Ghanaians will not be part of this exercise. That will bring to question the utility of the exercise being undertaken. We don't have the numbers, but a matter of seeking legal clarification on the status of the voter ID card as reference. We will question that in the Supreme Court of Ghana on the basis of their earlier rulings and position on the matter.
If you just joined us, it's still Joy News Prime. Emmanuel Abajiri standing by with the business news.
Time now for business. The number of inspection agencies at the country's ports is set to be reduced significantly from the beginning of next month. Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia made this known at the launch of the 2018 Mobile Tech Expo here in Accra.
This year's Mobile Expo is bringing together some of the big players in the technology space to look at how to enhance economic prosperity through technology. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in an address at the launch, revealed that effective July, there will be a reduction in the number of inspection agencies at the various ports in the country. This is to help ease the process of clearing goods at ports.
We have undertaken a review of the paperless system and we've taken a few decisions. From July 1st, we're reducing the number of agencies undertaking joint inspections at the port from 16 to 3. So from July 1, when you were doing joint inspections, you would only have 3 agencies now: Ghana Standards Authority, Food and Drugs Authority, and the Customs. They can be joined by National Security and NACOP, of course, based on intelligence. Otherwise, if there's no particular intelligence for National Security or NACOP to be there, they wouldn't be there. You would just have 3 institutions who will do the joint inspection. And this will speed up the process a lot, because when you have 16 institutions doing a joint inspection and one doesn't show up, the inspection doesn't get completed. And you can imagine that is not normal, that usually 1 or 2 are not there on time.
The Vice President also revealed government's plan to formulate a digital roadmap soon.
We came back, and I think in a couple of months, Ghana will be launching a major conference, international conference, where we will be addressing the issue of defining a digital roadmap for Ghana. And that will be a very, very important outcome of this particular conference, and is going to be attended by Ghanaians and innovators and global players also, so that we can put together, and I hope many of you will make an appearance at the conference also, because it's all about us. Where should we go? We need to, and how are we going to get there? We need to put our ideas together and put together a digital roadmap for Ghana. But that will take place in a few months. Our government will build a thriving environment for.
The Mobile Tech Expo is expected to run from Wednesday to Sunday.
The year-on-year inflation rate for the month of May 2018 has increased to 9.8% from the 9.6% recorded in April. Increase in the inflation rate for both food and non-food were key drivers for the general hike in inflation. Acting Chief Statistician Bawumia disclosed this at a press conference on Wednesday morning. Charles Aiti reports.
According to the acting government statistician, the drivers for the hike in inflation can be linked to the inching up of both food and non-food inflation. Presenting the year-on-year inflation, Bawumia revealed that the monthly change rate in May 2018 was 1%, compared with 0.9% recorded in April 2018.
And for March 2018, the consumer price index stood at 214.1. And this translates into a yearly change of 10.4% and a monthly change of 1.4%. For April 2018, the index level was 216.0, and this translates into a yearly change of 9.6% and a monthly change of 0.9%. For May 2018, the index, or the consumer price index, stood at 218.1, which translates into a yearly change of 9.8% and a monthly change of 1.0%.
Speaking to Joy Business after the presentation, Bawumia noted that the performance of inflation rates are basically based on government policies. He believes policy interventions like the 10% hike in transport fares could negatively impact inflation rates.
I believe that what can keep, you see, it only inched up from 9.6 to 9.8, and we're actually more to a base effect. But the keeping it down or up will depend on policies that are implemented. For example, you realize that for last month, when due to the regulation of the is it the water sector, utility sector, and prices went down marginally. It affected the inflation rate and recorded the lowest inflation so far since 2013. We recorded a rate of 9.6%, and it was a policy decision. And so going forward, it's the policies that government implements that are going to influence inflation.
The May 2018 inflation rate of 9.8% is the second lowest since January 2013. The April rate was 9.6%.
In other business news, two major sectors of the economy, the mining and quarrying sectors, have recorded negative growth over a two-year period from 2015 to 2017. This was contained in the second edition of the Ghana Business Development Review launched in Accra, leading to a disappointing growth in the industrial sector. The Minister of Business Development, Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Awal, lauded the University of Ghana Business School for churning out a detailed report, which he said will serve as a guide to government in crafting the right policies and programs to support growth of business in the country.
The second edition of the Ghana Business Development Review chronicles research-based findings into different areas of the Ghanaian business landscape. Its usefulness extends from areas such as academia to policy formulation and even to usefulness by practitioners. Now, the billion-dollar question remains is how do we get these research findings implemented into practice?
So that's why in a launch like this we invite the minister responsible for the sector, and you can have no other person than the Minister for Business Development, Honorable Dr. Awal, honoring the invitation and launching the report. And he did a fantastic job in terms of his delivery and the commitment to supporting the sustainability of this report. So
the second edition of the review, put together by the University of Ghana Business School, is a build-up of the first edition of the review, which covered the years 2010-2014. According to the review, the industrial sector continues to disappoint, registering a negative growth of 1.2%. Speaking at the launch, Dr. Ibrahim Mohammed Awal, Business Development Minister, lauded the efforts of the school and called on them to do more in the areas of usable research.
Right from the onset, our President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo indicated that he wanted to make Ghana the most business-friendly nation in Africa. What he meant by that was that we must put in policies, initiatives that will make Ghana very competitive. That will not only attract investors to the country, but make sure that they stay and make Ghana as a gateway to the sub-region of 350 million people. That's why this ministry was created. We all know that without a predictable business environment, no business will flourish. We took measures and steps, and our economy grew by 8.5% in 2017, as against 3.7% in 2016.
Now, the minority in Parliament says it welcomes government's quest to make the country a petroleum hub. According to the ranking member of the Energy and Mines Committee, Adam Mutawakilu, the country stands to benefit a great deal from such a move. He, however, outlined some policy measures that government must consider to harness this agenda.
The minority, while embracing the government to continue with this concept of Ghana being a petroleum hub, there are some few inputs that we want government to consider going forward. One, government should consider using those as the logistics sector where all activities of the petroleum hub will anchor on. Government should scale up the activities of the upstream industry. This is because the byproduct of the upstream becomes the raw material for the downstream. So building an energy hub in the downstream without a complete synergy between the upstream and downstream, then we will be facing difficulties in the near future. Also, toll should be restructured and supported to be on its feet so that it will play a significant role in the refinery aspect of the petroleum hub. Turning toll to a tank farm will not inure to the benefit of Ghanaians, since toll could play this role if it is made the logistics center. 4, to ensure that there will be reliable, available, and stable power supply to the petroleum hub, government should pursue vigorously the availability of liquefied natural gas to complement indigenous gas as a source of fuel for the power plants.
And that's all we have for you in Business on Joy News Prime. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apoachi. Have a good evening.
Welcome back. This is Joy News Prime. Let's get down to the rest of the stories. The government of Ghana has named a 5-member committee to manage the country's football affairs. This comes a day after the Accra High Court granted a 10-day injunction on the activities of the Ghana Football Association. A statement from the Information Minister, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, says the committee will manage administration of football and other related matters in the country. The formation of the new committee follows Anas Arimea Anas's documentary, which revealed deep corruption in Ghana football. Now, the members of the committee are Abedi Pele, former Black Stars skipper, Reverend Osei Kofi, who is former Black Star, who is a former Black Star. Kujo Fiano is chairman of the Ghana League Club Association, GALCA, and Eva Ochre is former sports journalist. Now, Dr. Kofi Amwa will chair the committee, and the committee spokesperson will be sports journalist Dan Kweku Yeboah. Joining me in the studio to right now, investigative journalist Anas Arimea Anas has petitioned 4 state institutions related to this story to conduct investigations into the activities of ousted president of the Ghana Football Association, Kwesi Nyantakyi. The embattled president in the investigative piece probing alleged corruption at the Football Association was caught on tape, allegedly receiving monies from investors who had expressed interest in sponsoring the Ghana Premier League. Now, the investors are known to the FA president, were undercover journalists who worked with Anas Arimea. And Anas's documentary, popularly known as Number 12, exposed the long-held suspicion of corruption at the GFA. Now, president of the FA, Kwesi Nyantakyi, has resigned, and the government has initiated processes to dissolve the GFA, but the investigative journalists will not rest. Anas wants the GFA boss investigated and prosecuted, and he wants the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Financial Intelligence Office, and the Economic and Organized Crime Office to commence a probe immediately. My colleague Evans Mensah joins me with a copy of the 6-paged petition. Good evening to you, Evans.
Good evening, Aisha.
Furnish us with details of this 6-paged petition.
So, Anas has written, and in that petition to the Attorney General, details that Kwesi Nyantakyi, in the conversations that they had, made some revelations that Anas and his people followed up on and checked. Some of them showed that Mr. Nyantakyi has set up businesses. Some of these businesses have been set up days after that meeting for the purpose of receiving the cash that he was anticipating will come from these investors who we now know to be investigative undercover journalists, and is therefore asking, in fact, first accusing Nyantakyi of issues relating to money laundering, corruption, bribery, and influence peddling, and he wants Nyantakyi to be investigated for all these. From what I understand, he's also petitioned the Bank of Ghana, because it relates to some financial institutions that he details. For example, he says that on 23rd October 2017, Mr. Nyantakyi sends an email in which he was then demanding that the monies be paid, the monies that the investors had told him would be sent to him through the businesses that he had set up. He advised that the money for the sponsorship of the Ghana Football League, Premier League, should be wired to a Cal Bank Limited in Accra in a designated account of a financial institution.
Which is certainly not an account of the GFA.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, it's an account of a savings and loans company called Fountain Savings and Loans Limited, which Anas claims Mr. Nyantakyi had stated that he owns Anas and his group then follows up on that to check on the Fountain Savings and Loans Company Limited, and they found that Mr. Nyantechi owns 6,000 shares in that company. Another company called Pro KN Communications owns 2,250 shares. Another company, the third company called New Thicken Limited, owns 6,500 shares. Now probed further and found that Pro KN Communications, which owns 2,250 shares, actually belongs to Kwesi Nyantechi, and therefore concludes that in that company, the savings and loans company that will receive the amount of money coming from the investors from Dubai, Nyantechi owns the majority shares.
In that expose, you could hear Kwesi Nyantechi clearly saying that he has a savings and loans company where they could launder the money through. I think I heard him say that. Is it the same company we're talking about?
I wouldn't have an idea because I haven't watched the full clip. But this is what Anas is detailing in his petition. But he also says, following the delays because these are fictitious investors, so they had no intention of sending the money. But Nyantechi then was anticipating that the money would come. And he saw that the guys are delayed in sending the money, although he has set up the businesses waiting for the money to come. He said Nyantechi grew restless, and then in other mails then began to offer to these fictitious investors some kickbacks, some cuts. Okay, so let me read this part, it's important. It says, on 25th of November 2017, Mr. Nyantechi sent another email to my outfit detailing the payment to be made at the time, and offering the supposed investor who with a fictitious name Dr. Al-Badawi $100,000 a year for 3 years on the end commission of 10%. He also says Mr. Nyantechi also offered $20,000 US to the supposed investor, being 10% of the appearance fee of $200,000. And then through a further series of emails exchanged between Mr. Nyantechi and my outfit here being
the
Anas's
supposed business.
Mr. Nyantechi set up in clearer form the scheme for the sponsorship for the Ghana Premier League and contracts. Now he also shows how Mr. Nyantechi then goes ahead to set up a company by name Namex. And he says Namex is wholly owned by Mr. Nyantechi, and it was incorporated in Ghana by him on 17th October 2017, 10 days after the meeting in Dubai, to facilitate the transaction. So in other words, in fact, in the clip, in the video clip, you hear Mr. Nyantechi talk about the Namex, how they form this particular company, that the Namex will charge the Ghana Football Association between 20 and 25%.
Now, Anas petitions the Attorney General Iyoko and the Bank of Ghana. Specifically, what does he want the Attorney General to do, and what's Iyoko's duties in this petition?
So Iyoko, definitely, because it's financial, he believes this has to do with, and Iyoko's name says it all, is the Economic and Organized Crimes Unit. So he believes that the economic crimes may have been committed by Mr. Nyantechi, and so Iyoko should look into it. The Bank of Ghana angle is obvious. In fact, already we know that a wing of the Bank of Ghana, which is the Financial Intelligence Center, has already written to all banks, asking the banks to provide details of the accounts that they hold for or on behalf of Mr. Nyantechi, but also for and on behalf of the Ghana Football Association. So investigations clearly have already begun into some of these things
from the Bank of Ghana side.
But for the Attorney General, because the Attorney General is, when it comes to state affairs, is the only sole prosecutor on the matters. Even in the case of Iyoko, they simply have to send the docket, if they investigate fully, to the Attorney General to determine if there's a case to be probed. I guess that's why they brought in the Attorney General as well. And so you can see from all that we've read in this statement, Anas is quite determined to go beyond
the expose,
of course, and get possibly, he believes, some prosecution must take place as far as Kwesi Nyantakyi's conduct is concerned.
All right. Many thanks to you. Evans Mensah is Joy News editor and head of political desk at Joy News. Now, we'll take a Welcome back to Joy News Prime. President Akufo-Addo has described as unacceptable Ghana's continuous reliance on foreign support for its budget 61 years after independence. According to him, the development makes mockery of resources available to the country. Inaugurating a 14-member committee to draft a charter on Ghana Beyond Aid, the president said the country has what it takes to become an economic power on the continent.
We have, all of us know, tremendous resources in this country. Apart from the resources that nature has, we have also a people that, given inspiration, given the right context and appropriate policy support, are capable of doing a lot of things which are positive. A lot of people forget that the industry that has sustained us for 100 years, the cocoa industry, was developed by small-scale subsistence farmers, the vast majority of them with little or no education. But given the right policy framework, they were able to respond. And they are responsible virtually for everything that constitutes modern-day Ghana, our institutions, our universities, our balance of payments, our foreign exchange earnings, all of it. So the possibility of such a people being able now to move to a higher level, given the appropriate policy context, is very, very real. And I think the time has come for us to realize that potential, to make a conscious effort together as a people to get there. If we're able to draw up a charter which sets out timelines for us to be able to achieve budgetary self-sufficiency, to be able to take the steps that will ensure that we have genuine control over our economy.
The 14-member committee, chaired by Senior Minister Yaa Osafo Maafo, is tasked with the responsibility of developing a comprehensive document to make Ghana self-reliant. The document, expected to be ready in September, will be put before Parliament for consideration and approval. Mr. Osafo Maafo is confident the document will guide present and future governments on its economic policies.
We also support the idea of getting a charter. It should not be a political tool of any political party. This is a national matter, and therefore the idea of getting it debated in Parliament is important, so that we get other people's input into it. If anybody opposes Ghana Beyond Aid, let him come and rationalize it. If anybody supports it, let him come and justify the support. After that, we'll get a document that every Ghanaian will be comfortable with, that we shall all be ready to use it for the benefit of this country. We cannot continue like this. Your Excellency, this will remain perhaps Akufo-Addo's main legacy to this country, Ghana Beyond Aid, when it is put in a charter form and it is implemented, so that this syndrome of dependency, even among the accounts, begging is not right. Yes, our culture, even eating in other people's houses who are not related to you, is abhorred. They call it we don't think it's correct. So as a country, if we put all together, something has gone wrong and we must correct it. And we are going to correct it in the context of Ghana Beyond Aid.
The Ghana Immigration Service says it is in the process of procuring sophisticated gadgets and weapons to aid in its border patrol. The service in 2016 was given government approval to purchase arms to patrol the country's vulnerable borders. 2 years down the lane, the service is yet to be seen with arms at the various borders. Speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of the launch of the second 5-year strategic plan, leadership of the service assured that the situation will soon improve.
It's been 2 years since the Ghana Immigration Service was giving the green light to purchase and use arms as part of the service's visibility at the various borders. Explaining reasons for the delay in executing that mandate, Deputy Commissioner and Head of Technical Working Group, Erica Fari, says the situation will soon change.
GIS, until the passage of the law 2016 itself, is not armed. But the law now has empowered us to be armed and then to also patrol our borders. And so what we are doing now is to restructure and then re-equip. And now we have the legal backing to patrol our borders. And so I'm sure when we start patrolling, our physical presence and the use of surveillance cameras will definitely reduce transnational organized crime across our border.
DC Erica Fari reiterated development partners of the strategic plan, European Union, are optimistic the successful implementation of the plan will reduce illegal migrations of Ghanaians to European countries.
They will want us to take charge of our borders. They want us to reduce transnational organized crime. They expect us to also strengthen our data management system in immigration so that whoever enters this country, Ghana is seen as a safe haven. It also means that criminals can come and hide here. And so immigration service has to strengthen the front line and then also do sufficient intelligence gathering such that all criminals who might be hiding in this country and could use this place as a staging post to cause havoc in the surrounding countries can be flushed out.
Assistant Commissioner of Immigration and Head of Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Faisal Disu, hopes the second strategic plan has the capacity to address the challenges bedeviling the service.
We found out that our internal consultation was not really done well. Regional commanders, sector commanders felt that the previous plan was something drawn in Accra and actually pushed on them to implement. People do not feel that sense of ownership. We have done a needs assessment which we have embarked on a nationwide tour, and we believe that this plan actually satisfies our needs. It will satisfy our needs for the next 5 years.
The Finance Ministry has been blamed in the past for delays in disbursement of funds for execution of policies, but Chief of Staff Akosua Afrima Osel Pare assures things will be handled differently with this development plan. The Ghana Immigration Service is hopeful the 5-year development plan, which spans 2018 to 2022, will be effectively executed to achieve its intended aim. Charity M. Hill-Batel's report for Joy News.
Let's talk employment now, because the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations is asking stakeholders and individuals to keep faith in the government of Ghana to implement the National Plan of Action Against Child Labour. Ignatius Bafurwa at the 2018 commemoration of the World Day Against Child Labour in Cape Coast advocated an integrated approach to combating child labour and eventually eliminate the canker by 2025. Richard Kwejonyaku was there for Joy News.
Dressed to mark the day in Cape Coast, the sector minister, Ignatius Bafurwa, explained child labour remains a critical national issue which government is addressing with the support of the media. Ignatius Bafurwa acknowledged the efforts of the NGOs and donor communities in combating child labour, but lamented the issue of instances of abuse of children both in school and out of school. He disclosed that as part of effort to eliminate child labour, the ministry has successfully launched the Phase 2 of the National Plan of Action for the elimination of the worst forms of child labour. We are not saying that you should not allow children to sweep or undertake household chores, but menial jobs that take children out of school and put them in hazardous situations should be stopped.
All forms of abuse of children in the form of slavery is totally unacceptable by the international community, and it is also unacceptable by Ghanaians.
On the health and safety of workers in the country, the minister says improving the safety and health of young workers will contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 8. Ghana NGO Coalition on the Rights of the Child commented that the policies for working to combat child labor should not be left to gather dust on shelves. The representatives of the USAID Ghana, James Lucas of the Economic Growth Office of the U.S. Embassy in Ghana, said the commemoration of the day is important to draw awareness on the child labor situation in Ghana. He cited the work with allied stakeholders in strengthening the capacity of community and district stakeholders, precisely the community, district advocates and committees in their activities. This year's World Day Against Child Labor and the World Day for Safety and Health at Work focuses on the global need to harness the safety and health of young workers and also to end child labor. It is dubbed Resist Child Labor, Improve the Safety and Health of Young Workers towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 8. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
I'm here in Accra. My name is Aisha Ibrahim from our studios. Now, residents of Bolga Zongo in the Upper East region are hopeful their lives will improve with government's Zongo development policy, despite the fact that no projects have started on the ground. For our Joy News agenda today, Upper East correspondent Albert Sori returns to Bolga Zongo and reports that apart from the consultative meeting held about 2 months ago between the Minister for Inner Cities and Zongo Development and some leaders of that community, nothing is on the ground to show that government is committed to implementing the policy there.
Lack of access roads, choked drains, unemployment and poor education were the major problems residents of Bolga Zongo wanted the government to help them tackle when Joy News last visited the community in January this year. Today, I return to the community and find that nothing has changed. Access roads is still number 1 on the list of priorities as far as the assemblyman for the area, Haj Razak Mohammed, is concerned.
And today you could see that people have done some extensions and nobody, authorities are not asking them to demolish them, and as a result you do not have access to. Recently I will tell you, there had been a fire outbreak here and it was serious. The room was the whole thing was burnt down because the fire tender couldn't access the place. And
this gutter here is a major drain running through Bolga Zongo. Residents complain that it was poorly constructed and therefore causes a lot of flooding during the rainy seasons. The rains have already started for this year, so the assemblyman is worried.
In Zongo, the structures that are being put up by the people of the Zongo community is such that we do not have access road, we do not have good drainage systems, and anytime it rains, we find it very, very difficult.
Choked drains and poor sanitation was also a concern raised by many residents we interviewed here during our last visit. The situation remains the same, if not worse. While I was busy concentrating on my camera, I stepped on this stinking animal excreta on the edge of the gutter. Imoro Isaka is an electronics repairman whose shop is very close to the drain.
The gutter, if rain comes, it will full and come out here. And this gutter is started from some place. I think if they come and then go over there and start the gutter there and build the gutter and come and join into this one, I think it will help.
He says the problems of the community are too many and he is afraid that government may fail to prioritize them because for him, the consultations being done with regard to the needs of the area are not broad enough.
What we are pleading in the Zongo minister is he should come back and look at Bolga Zongos. It's not one Zongo. We have about 2 or 3 Zongos in Bolga here. But all of them, if you enter there, you know that we don't have access to roads. Just like I was saying, fire service coming to do their service, they can't get access to any of the houses.
Government has announced the creation of an additional 5,000 jobs under its flagship Planting for Food and Jobs program. According to the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Ignatius Bafuwa, the jobs were largely created in area expansion, fertilizer distribution, seed distribution outlets, amongst others. The Employment and Labour Relations Minister was speaking in Parliament.
360 hectares, 360,000 hectares were cultivated under the Planting for Food and Jobs. Mr. Speaker, experts have indicated that it takes 2 persons to cultivate an area of 1 hectare. So, Mr. Speaker, by that, the 360,000 hectares resulted in creating jobs for 720,000 persons. In the job that were created as a result of the Planting for Food and Job were in the private business. They were not in the formal, or they were not in public employment, private employment.
From Parliament, in the midst of malpractice charges, you may wonder why any woman would risk going under the knife at the infamous Obingfo Hospital. Well, Kojo Yankson traveled to a suburb of Accra to discover why one woman won't stop testifying to the skill and professionalism of Dr. Dominic Obing-Ando after she threw caution to the wind and placed herself in his hands for the body of her dreams.
Were other people commenting on how you look, or was it just how you personally felt?
Oh, well, inside and internally, it was something that I was really struggling with within me. I would say I had depression because of that. Oh yes, I had depression because of that. Because knowing me, I loved wearing things that were so tight on me, and it got to a point I couldn't wear such, because if I should wear anything and see my tummy, you know, bulging there, it sucks to me. So I started hiding in clothes, baggy clothes and baggy tops. I could wear jeans, then wear something big because I couldn't show my curves anymore. So I was thinking about all these things, like, oh, okay. I remembered, oh, Obingfo is even around. I've been there before, and I saw most pictures of whatever he's done, the procedures and what people had gone to do from there. So that was after 4 years that I had been there. So I started, I went back in there again, went through the same procedure I had, because I had the card already. So I wanted to do my arms, because my arms were growing bigger back then when I first went to see him. I wasn't even bothered about my tummy, because I felt around that time my tummy wasn't anything big. I felt okay with it around that time. But this time around, it was my arms, my tummy, and everywhere. Though the back was also getting bigger, but then I wanted.
Did you have a problem with that too?
I'll say yeah, in a way, because I'm the type, I have a very soft skin, because my back was a bit saggy.
Do different kinds of men give you attention from before you did the surgery?
Of course, men are always driven by what they see. So those attentions I get them a lot.
And what I mean is are they different? The kinds of men who give you attention since you had the surgery, are they different from the kinds of men?
Very.
In what way?
I wouldn't want to talk about that.
Oh, we're learning so much from you.
No.
But they're different.
Exactly. Very different.
Better.
Very. best.
And to your headlines, on top of the West Municipal Hospital at Amasaman commences investigations into the alleged administration of expired drug on a 1-year-old baby. Strategic Thinkers Network petitions the Supreme Court for the true interpretation of constitutional provisions that allow the use of the voter ID card as appropriate proof of citizenship. No minority in Parliament is questioning the NIA's position that voters' ID card will not be used as proof of citizenship for the Ghana card. In business, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says the number of inspection agencies at the country's ports set to be reduced significantly from the beginning of next month. Also, investigative journalist Anas Arimeyo Anas petitions 4 state institutions to conduct investigations into the activities of former president of the Ghana Football Association, Kwesi Nyantakyi.